Hello, I am Empress ELISHEVA, and you're listening to the New Age Apostle podcast. Today's episode will be entitled The End of It All. It's your time to shine. Last week, we wrapped up my Question of Purpose series, and I will be starting a new purpose-focused series next week. But a few things happened this week, and I just had to touch upon them. So if you're ready, I am too. Let's go. So let's get into our vibe check segment real quick. I must admit that I am a little nervous about the subject matter of this week's episode because it touches upon topics that I usually shy away from. But to be honest, I am glad to be finally facing it and talking about it openly. I've also finally started to talk about this podcast on my social media platforms, which is a bit nerve-wracking for me. For some reason, knowing that no one was listening was somewhat of a comfort for me. Of course, the goal has always been to share this content, with as many people as possible. So if you're here because of that Instagram post that I posted, I want to give you a quick hello and also thank you for following me on that platform. And of course, I'm going to encourage you to subscribe to this YouTube channel. It's a new channel, and you guys all know how it works. So subscribe and follow and support. Now, this episode almost did not happen because it seemed like Spirit was discouraging me from doing so. But it does appear that the energy has shifted, so let's get into this. From the outset, I need to say that this information is based on my own personal research, my own personal revelations, and just my own personal spiritual understandings. So as the title suggests, I'm talking about the end of it all. But you might be thinking, the end of what? Well, a few episodes back, when this podcast was still being called Elizabeth McCarty Ministries, I discussed the topic of the Age of Aquarius. I do recommend that you go back and listen to it for context and background, as I won't go fully into that level of detail here. And, to help you out with that, I'll put a link in the description box below if you're interested in listening to that. However, to provide a treatment of that topic here is some context I wish to share regarding the end of the previous age and the beginning of a new one. And this is lifted directly from that episode that I mentioned. So I'm essentially plagiarizing myself. So what I've come to understand regarding the age of Aquarius is that it is one of the 12 ages that our planet precesses through. The age right before Aquarius was that of Pisces, and before that, Aries, and so forth. These precessions, sometimes referred to as precessions of the equinoxes, they see our planet moving backward through the signs, right? Because usually the way we experience it annually, the order of the zodiac signs is different on the calendar. With a precession, the age of Aries gave way to the age of Pisces, which gave way to where we are now, which is the age of Aquarius. Usually, of course, Aquarius would come before Pisces, and then Aries would follow. Aries would follow Pisces. Each astrological age lasts approximately 2,160 years, with one great year equaling approximately 25,920 years, which, if you're doing the math, is actually one 2,160 year period multiplied by the 12 zodiac signs. Whenever Earth precesses into the age of Aquarius, it enters an age of light, where Earth is enabled with this opportunity to elevate dimensionally. In the multi-dimensional mythos of the universe, the fifth dimension is the dimension of oneness and the love frequency, the dimension where the heart chakra is opened and duality transcended. Duality consciousness, which is predicated upon seeing the separation, conflict, and difference in all things, is what contributes to strife and discord amongst the people on this planet, and is a prime contributor to the very challenges and difficulties our planet is experiencing right now. The love frequency is also sometimes called the Christ frequency or Christ consciousness. More on that later. We apparently enter something called the photon band whenever we enter the age of Aquarius, which would explain why it is called the age of light. The photon band is a band of light in our solar system that is transmuting our atmosphere. And we supposedly entered the photon band back on December 21st in 2019, according to Wayne Chandler, who wrote the book Ancient Future. Since that date, which I might add was only a few months before the world plunged into the restrictive and draconian COVID-19 pandemic, it is my assertion that the world has been forced onto a path of deep shadow work. Or at least that's what I observe and believe Western countries like the United States is experiencing. Me personally, during my transmutation experiences, everything low vibrational and energetically heavy comes up for my examination and eventual release of it. This is the essence of shadow work for me, wherein one is faced with those aspects of his or herself that have been hidden due to shame or societal conditioning. And during these transmutation opportunities, one is given the chance to become aware of that which they've shunned about themselves, so they can accept it and integrate it into their being. That's an oversimplified yet drawn out way of saying what was done in the dark will come to light. We'll get back to the podcast in a second, but I wanted to mention my ebook, 10 Vibration Raising Practices and Why They Work. I wrote this book because as I delved deeper into my spiritual journey, I realized that one of the most important things on this human journey is raising one's vibration. Understanding how to navigate this human life so that you align with and attain your highest vibrational reality, to me, is key. It's the key to mastering life, because the higher your vibration, the more magnetic you become for high vibrational experiences and spiritual guidance from beings of a higher frequency that want to help you on your journey. As the title suggests, my book details 10 practices that you can start doing today that will put you on the road to a higher vibration. Check out the link in the description box below, or search ELISHEVA Stellar, ELISHEVA Stellar, STELLAR, on Amazon.com or BarnesandNobles.com to purchase your copy today. Okay, back to today's topic. Also, please know that I am still a student of all this, so I too have my questions, but I am pretty certain the end of the 2160-year Piscean astrological age that marks the beginning of the Aquarian age is the apocalypse spoken of in Revelations of the Bible. According to Merriam-Webster, a revelation is an act of revealing to view or making something known. And that coincides perfectly with the idea of an age of light and illumination, which is also known as the age of knowing. Via the previous age, our planet was bathed with an energy that encouraged belief, as in the age of Pisces, whose motto is often said to be, "I believe." Now the energy encourages knowing for oneself what is true. And wouldn't you know it, Aquarius's motto is said to be, "I know." So if it is the end of it all, who is this ending beneficial to? Well, it's beneficial to everyone, because if you're on the planet at this time, I believe it's intentional because you want in on this massive opportunity for an energetic update. It's a massive opportunity for shadow work and for previously suppressed truths to come to light. However, I believe it is important to consider how a system that has been predicated upon the suppression of others for its so-called supremacy will behave in its last days. As they say, a beast is most dangerous when it is wounded, as it will thrash about in the throes of death. In true first shall be last and last shall be first fashion, those whose so-called supremacy is being upended aren't happy about it, and this is contributing to what we are seeing. If you know, you know. We are in a time when a duality mindset is actually a hindrance, and in order to ascend along with the planet, we must adopt a singularity mindset that aligns together our dualized mental nature. We must recognize that light and dark, masculine and feminine, good and evil, humanity and divinity, and all dichotomies exist in all of us, that we are all one. This is Christ consciousness. This is nirvana and spiritual enlightenment. It is the unconditionally loving realization that you are truly all things, and that you incarnated on this planet to remember just that. Of course, this is my viewpoint and how I've come to understand the Christos. I encourage you to seek your own understanding, as I'm sure somebody out there will disagree. which is to be expected and is actually quite healthy. Okay, so what does this have to do with the topic at hand? Well, this new age and new energy bathing the planet is supposedly meant to be anchored to the crystal grid of Earth, aiding in the ascension of Gaia to a higher plane of existence. While I don't know if all that is true or what necessarily that looks like, I do know that with this new age, a lot more cosmic energy is being made available, which can be used for the betterment of your life. By the way, everything is energy, including the food you eat, the simulation within which you live, and everything alive or that has ever lived. I'm going to say that last part again. Everything alive or that has ever lived is energy, or put differently, it holds an energetic signature. Reading about the 7 Hermetic Laws in the book The Kybalion will tell you that. And that energy can be wielded via various means depending on the type of energy it is and what the end goal is. Spirits are energy, as in spirit people who once had a human existence. Places can also hold an energetic imprint influenced by events that have taken place at a particular location, especially if it was a particularly traumatic circumstance. Energy can be manipulated, and we all do this, even if we do so unknowingly and unintentionally. Ancestors of various lineages are just the energetic imprints of those that have lived previously. The lives they lived during their incarnations do have an impact upon the energy they continue to be, and whether they have or haven't continued shadow work will have an impact as well. Yes, I have made the realization that the work towards ascension and development that we do doesn't end just because we pass on from this life. More steps toward development and self-actualization continue even after death. I only know this because of visions that I've had of what we experience in the immediate afterlife once we've died, as well as books I've read, especially Sylvia Browne's Journey of the Soul book series and Michael Newton's book, which is similarly titled Journey of Souls. In truth, I've found that our ancestors become sources of power for us to tap into once they've ceased physical existence. How does one tap into this energy? Well, it's best just to set the intention to do so, honestly. And this can be done according to any particular spiritual system or just according to what you feel you must do. If your family's ancestral spiritual practices have been lost, you can adopt one that you feel connected to. For example, my father's side of the family is from the Caribbean, so I feel a connection to voodoo and palo, and will likely learn about obia, Obeah, as I remember my father talking about it when I was a child. My mom's side of the family has Native American heritage as well as formerly enslaved peoples. So my interest is also in those traditional religious systems that were brought over to the Americas with slaves in the southern part of the United States, as well as practices traditionally attributed to Native American peoples. Okay, so now let's get to the meat of this. I think especially as melanated individuals, assisting us and helping us to ascend along with the planet is at the very least an honorable thing to do, because it seems like the ancestors really, really want to do it. I know mine do, and I'm sure that I'm not unique in that situation. It's like the energy wants to be utilized. The energy in the form of deities, ancestors, animal spirits, they all want to be utilized, whether that's via spellcasting, rituals, mediumship, divination, whatever. I say this because I will have dreams with deities from certain pantheons that are letting me know, like, hey, I'm available for use. And sometimes I have those dreams repetitively if I don't immediately take them up on their quote unquote offer. And I've actually been summoned to a nearby slave cemetery and told what offering to bring. So the more you do this work and the more you work at achieving a higher vibration, the more the energy wants to be utilized by you. Otherwise, it remains stagnant, and that can be a problem because that's how physical health problems can start. I think it's fair enough to say that if there was some work that was left undone by an individual when they died, they'd likely wish to continue that work. Energetic expression has to occur through an incarnated being, someone who's here in the physical, right? If it's going to have an impact on the physical world. And that's only through individuals, living individuals in a flesh vessel like you and I. Energy in the form of deities, ancestors, etc. influence our creativity, they inspire our actions, and they guide us. I'm sure by now you heard about the Montgomery Melee, And what happened with that was a black co-captain of a riverboat named the Harriet was attacked at a Montgomery riverfront while he was attempting to do his job. The ship he was co-captaining was unable to dock because a party of 5 or 6 white individuals refused to move their boat. As a last resort, the co-captain took a smaller boat and attempted to move the boat himself. This is when the white boaters attacked him and pretty much all hell broke loose. What happened next has since been memed, reenacted, and the subject of many think pieces on how what occurred on August 5th, 2023 exemplified black folks' refusal to quote unquote take it any damn more. Now, I myself am not an instigator, but I understand fully how and why it happened. But imagine my utter lack of surprise when I discovered that, one, supposedly, historically, that particular riverfront is where ancestors were brought shackled in chains as slaves. And two, just hours earlier on that very dock that day, a group of 30 or so melanated women performed acts of ancestral reverence and worship by bringing flowers to the water. Now, the woman who facilitated the event that culminated in the ancestral reverence is named Candace Anderson, and her Instagram is C Anderson Live, right? That's CEANDERSONLIVE. Okay, all one word, C Anderson Live. She has since come out and had to address accusations that they conjured demons at the riverfront. She was putting distance between the women and the accusations of witchcraft, right? And in doing so, she stated that it is more likely that due to the love they were carrying in their hearts at the time, that no one was mortally wounded, because that is true. With that whole big melee and all that fighting that was going on, no one was mortally wounded, and that would have been worse. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with her. I don't disagree either, right? But I do notice how quickly she had to move to quell those fears, okay? Now, when I say that the ancestors are waiting for you to call upon them, I have every reason to believe that this is true. Maybe you are having dreams of deceased family members, perhaps specific deities have made themselves known to you. I do not believe that you need to be initiated by anyone outside of you. However, if you believe that, then go ahead and look into that so you can do so. I do believe that you will get very quick results if you tap in. And I feel like that day, those women with that event that they did, even if they did not intentionally do so, I believe they tapped in. Now, if you don't know how to proceed, simply start with just pouring out water as an offering of veneration. They offered flowers. So, I don't know. Oftentimes when you make offerings, you do get results. I will tell you that. Okay. There are a lot of books on ancestor worship. And if you just do a quick search on Amazon, trust me, you will see plenty of options. In terms of my method of spellcasting and ritualizing, I require an energy source, okay? And I don't know if this is just unique to me and how I do things, but I know it's how I do things. Other folks might do the same thing. I don't know. I don't know what anyone else does. But with regard to what I do and how I do my work, my spiritual work, I require an energy source. And to me, what better energy source than the energy of the souls of your ancestors, of your lineage? Do I think the Montgomery Melee was assisted by the souls of the slaves who were once traded on those docks? I'll say this much, I don't really ignore coincidences like that. There's a scene in the final installment of Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, wherein Aragorn, played by Viggo Mortensen, having previously engaged an army of the dead to assist him and fulfill their oath to him as the rightful heir of the throne of Gondor, he returns to the battle at a place called Minas Tirith. I can never say it right. Minas Tirith. To assist this woefully outnumbered army of Rohan. In this scene, Aragorn bravely jumps out and off of the ship with his sword in his hand, ready to do battle. And the orcs, who they were battling, they laugh, for he's only one man, right? But he lets out this battle cry, and he's running towards them, and then boom, it's revealed that he's not alone, right? That he has the army of the dead alongside him, and they lay waste to the orcs. This is what I think of whenever I think of any massive defensive or offensive undertaking that melanated people might have to contend with in the future. I have little fears because I know that if push came to shove, there are many such places of black degradation all over this country that are dripping with the energy of those people who are willing to work with and partner with, an unafraid and courageous necromancer. Now, that word necromancer, that's why I've never said this publicly until now. I know it sounds, I know how it sounds. I'll put it that way. But I also know that melanated people are sitting on a whole lot of power that they really don't even have to leave their homes to tap into. So you can tap into that power source and use it in your own life for the betterment of your condition or for larger problems that need a little boost, if you know what I mean. Know that you must be, however, a proper vessel to call upon such energies. But yeah, it can be done. All right, bet if you enjoyed this podcast episode, be sure to hit that like button. And while you're at it, subscribe. At present, this podcast only appears on YouTube, but I am actively exploring other podcast platforms. For now, since I am a brand new channel, I would really appreciate your support. My goal is to help you, whether that's by exposing you to a new perspective or some new information that maybe you never knew existed. And I hope that I achieved that today. Until next time, holler at your girl.